There was a young girl, Jane, who was quiet but not shy. She had one friend, who was her best friend Sarah, equally quiet and much more shy. These two girls had been as close as peas in a pod through all their primary school years, and had been in the same class for all of their schooling. They had both encountered bullying of one form or another over the years, but while they were together they felt happy and safe. No one could hurt them while they were friends. The summer before Jane and Sarah started secondary school, Sarah's older brother died tragically, and both Sarah and Jane's family were rocked to their foundations by what happened. Knowing that the girls were so close and now were depending on each other for emotional support, their families asked the local high school that both of the girls were going to attend to put Sarah and Jane in the same class for their first year. When Sarah and Jane walked into the high school on their first day, they were expecting to be placed in the same class, only to find that, against the wishes of their parents and themselves, the school had decided to separate the two girls, even though they knew what happened to Sarah's family over the summer. Now, the classes that the two girls had been placed in both had contingency of the bullies the girls had faced during their primary school years. While Sarah managed to keep her head down and was shy and docile enough for the bullies in her class not to notice her, Jane was studious, artistic, and determined to follow her passion for the performing arts, something that made her different from the rest of the school and the rest of her class, who were academic but focused on their sporting achievements. Because Jane liked and was good at something other than sport, she was quickly noticed by the group of bullies in her class and was immediately made fun of for her weight, her height, the way she spoke, and the way she dressed, and the hobbies she pursued. Initially, it was only a small group of students who were making fun of Jane, and she thought to herself, I can deal with this, they're just being immature. She told these students she didn't like the way they were behaving towards her. When she said this to the group of bullies, they laughed and carried on poking fun at Jane, and slowly more and more people in Jane's class started doing this, until she was being ridiculed daily by every single member of her class. Jane, usually a happy and outgoing girl, slowly became more and more introverted. She took to either rushing out of class first or waiting until everyone had left so she could go and find sanctuary in the quietest corner of the library, a place where she spent every interval and lunchtime now. One day Jane's class had gone to the local swimming pool for their PE lesson, and the usual girls had gotten changed and left their clothes in the changing room. When they were done with class, Jane waited until all the girls were already in the changing rooms before she went and got changed. She started dressing, only to realise to her horror that her bra wasn't with the rest of her clothes. There was a commotion around the corner where the rest of the girls were getting dressed, and Jane went and listened to what was being said. She looked around the corner to see what was happening and saw the girls run out of the changing room with her bra held aloft in their hands, screeching to the boys, "Look, we've got Jane's bra!" After which they threw it in the swimming pool. Jane was left to fish her bra out of the water, dry it off best she could, and get dressed before walking back to school. Jane decided enough was enough and approached one of the teachers when she got back to school to tell them what had happened. The teacher Jane approached listened attentively and promised to talk to the girls involved. The next day, the teacher that Jane had talked to called Jane and the girls involved in the incident the day before into the classroom. She told the other girls what Jane had said happened the day before and asked them if they had in fact done this. The girls all shook their heads and said, "No, miss, we never did that." The teacher then sighed, looked pointedly at Jane and said, "Well, one of you must be lying," as if Jane was just simply being an attention seeker. Bullying like this continued for nearly 2 years, and Jane repeatedly told her teachers, and once even the deputy principal, what was happening in class and on the playground. She was greeted with responses like, "Don't make a fuss, Jane, you'll only make it worse." "Are you sure it's that bad, Jane? I've never heard anyone being mean to you." "And don't be silly, Jane, you're just overreacting." With comments like this, Jane started to believe that she deserved this treatment, and that maybe she was just overreacting. She was left with no self-worth, no self-esteem, and no friends. When she was at school, she hid in quiet corners. When she was at home, she hid in her room. When she finally got into a leadership program, she met people like her, people who were nice to her. And she realised she didn't have to stay in an environment that made her feel worthless, so she decided to transfer schools. Jane transferred to a school which was known for its performing arts program and known for its anti-bullying stance. Here she flourished, was happy, made friends, and performed well academically. While this is a positive outcome, why did it take 2 years and a school transfer for Jane to be able to live a happy life? What were teachers at her first school thinking? And after Jane reaching out on multiple occasions, why was nothing done?